You've got the hormonal IUD, the copper coil, the pill, the patch, the ring. Oh my gosh. Which one are you supposed to pick for yourself? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about my personal experience with the hormonal treatments that I've tried in an effort to give you a little bit more information and education about them and help you pick which one is right for you. Stick around and let's dive in. You might be asking, what qualifies me to speak about these things? Well, if you're new to my channel, I'm Remy. I'm a mother of two. I'm a doctor with over 10 years of experience in obstetrics and gynecology. And I myself have used contraception for at least 12 years. And I want to share my personal experience with you so that it can help you make an informed decision about what works better for you. So when I'm talking about my personal experience, I'm going to speak specifically about the hormonal types, and I will have a few notable mentions at the end, so stick around for that too. When you're trying to decide on hormonal contraception, there are certain things that need to be considered. So who you are, your personal history, your family history, your body habitus, so your weight, your height, and your age all need to be taken into account. So for a lot of these treatments, they do need to be prescribed by a doctor, and that person will take your personal details into account. And for that reason, this video is not medical advice. It is not medical advice. It is advice from a woman who also happens to be a doctor. It is also not personal advice because I don't know your situation and I don't know what is safe specifically for you. So without further ado, what ones have I tried? So I gave you a list earlier on, but I'm going to give it in chronological order. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, I had rip-roaring period pain on the first day of every period. And this would cause me to miss out on school, miss out on work. And as I was getting towards the end of medical school, I made the decision to go on the Combined Oral Contraceptive Pill. I grew up in a Nigerian home, so even the decision to go on contraception was quite a scary one for me because I'd heard things about, oh, it's going to affect your fertility. You're never going to be able to have a baby. You'll become promiscuous and all of those things that tend to come when we discuss contraception. So I'd started on the pill, I think in my sort of early 20s, and I went from having rip-roaring period pain to none at all. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, this is how life could be. So that was my first foray into that world. As I started working as a doctor and I started doing shift work, I struggled to keep up with the day-to-day pills. So then I thought, oh, okay, I need something longer acting and I needed something to still help me with my period pain. But at that time, I also needed something to stop me getting pregnant. So I went on to the Marina coil. And I did that for 6 months on 2 separate occasions and then decided that it wasn't for me. I then went on to the Combined Oral Contraceptive Patch because I had the issues with remembering to take the pill every day. And now, most recently, I'm now using the Combined Vaginal Ring. So these are the ones I'm going to discuss in my video today. So because I'm a doctor, I can't help but giving you a little bit more information about each type of hormonal contraceptive and how they work. I also very recently gave a talk to some junior doctors in my hospital about the use of contraception for managing gynecological conditions, so period pain, heavy bleeding, irregular bleeding, PCOS, overgrown lining of the womb. And I have a women's health education platform, and I'll add in the link for the Instagram down below, and very, very soon we will be making informative videos, and I will add that down below when that is ready too. So the combined oral contraceptives are a group that contain estrogen and progesterone mainly. And the way they work is they work against sort of your body's natural hormonal pathway. They switch off the main hormones and they stop you from ovulating. And the progesterone within it acts to thicken the mucus in the neck of the womb, to stop the tubes being extra mobile, and also to thin the lining of the womb. So that's how the combined ones work. So you've got the estrogen and you've got the progesterone. Lots of research has been done over the years to decide who this type of contraceptive is most safe for. So if you've had a blood clot in the past, breast cancer, liver disease, migraines, specifically migraines with auras, or any other conditions, then the combined pills might not be suitable for you. And this is why it is very important that you speak to a doctor before you start these contraceptives. So before I started on them, and almost every year in which I need a prescription, I have to have an up-to-date weight and I need my blood pressure checked. And that's the way to check that it's very safe. I also have to be hyper aware of any new symptoms. So if I get any swelling at the back of my leg, suddenly feel breathless, I need to be aware that there is a risk of having blood clots with these types of contraceptives. And it's about 6 to 12 in 100,000 women per year. So that per year is really important. So you have to be aware of the type of symptoms that could suggest that you have a blood clot. So pain in the legs, feeling short of breath, pain in the chest. So that's the medical jargon out the way. The main ways in which it comes is the pill. So you take the pill for 21 days and then you stop, and then you can have a withdrawal bleed for 7 days. Or you can have the patch, which you put on once a week and then you have a week without it. Or the ring, which can go in for 3 weeks and then you have a week without it. So there is a lot of evidence that shows that you actually don't need to have a bleed at all. It's not a normal period, it's called a withdrawal bleed. And for me, when I started taking it because of period pain, I was like, light bulb, I don't need to have a period every month. Why not just take it 2 months in a row and skip a period and therefore skip the pain? Or 3 months in a row and skip a period? And now there's evidence that you can take it up to 12 months without needing withdrawal bleed. But again, speak to your doctor. So what are the things I liked about the pill? I like that the estrogen makes my skin look good. That's my opinion. I don't have good skincare, I just have estrogen. I'm joking. But yeah, I feel like it makes my skin look better, it makes me glow a bit more. I like that I can control when I have a period with it, so I can almost predict when a period is likely to come. Not always true, but mostly true. What I didn't like about the pill was having to take it every day. And because the busier I've gotten over the years, the harder it is to remember a daily pill, even with an alarm reminding me on my phone. So that's why I went on to the patch. And that was my case to the doctor, because at the time I think it was slightly more expensive to prescribe it to me. And with the patch, I would literally just set a reminder every week on my phone, be like, change your patch, change your patch, change your patch. Because again, I was finding that I was also forgetting. I'm going to interrupt this video to ask you to please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell when you know my next video is coming. If you like the content so far, drop a comment down below. If you would like to see more videos like this, drop a comment down below. Now I'll let you get back to the video. The benefits of the patch are very similar to that of the pill from my personal experience. The one downside, and one thing I've not liked about the patch, is when I go on holiday, if I want to be in and out of the water, this happened to me once where the patch just kept coming off, and then I put on another one and that kept coming off as well. So I was a bit like, okay, this isn't working for me. And then I've often had to like really plan ahead for holidays to make sure I'm not on my period, or if my period is due, switching to the pill just to cover the holiday period. The other thing about the patch that I don't quite like is sometimes it gets a bit scummy around the edges, but that's something I've gotten used to. And then back in the day, I first tried it on my shoulder, and for the whole week it was itchy, it was irritable, I was getting spots, and I found that for me the best place to put it is on my thigh, on my bottom, and that works better. Now the ring. So the ring, like I said, is very new for me, and I'm a gynaecologist. I put in pessaries in people, and I had to read the instructions, and I was like, sure, I can figure it out. And I put it in, and like for the first few days, I was like, oh, why does this feel like it's falling out? And obviously that's a real risk that it could fall out and you won't know, because you don't feel it inside you. And then I was like, okay, I probably didn't squat enough, so I had to reposition it, and it actually feels fine. But that's also the downside, is that it can fall out, and if it does, what do you do? But again, for me, the benefits are all still roughly the same. The one thing that is slightly annoying is that when I went to the doctors to get it, the specific ring that I've got has to be in the fridge with the chemist or with the pharmacist. And then when you take it home, it can only last out of the fridge for 4 months. So say, for instance, I wanted to use it this month, but I wanted a month off, and then I would use it the following month. Like, that's a little bit annoying that I've kind of got a window within which I have to use it, and also that I have to get it on a repeat prescription. Just a few other things about symptoms I've personally noticed. I find when I'm not on my period, I'm very sensitive to how my hormones go up and down. So I'm very aware of when I'm ovulating. I'm very aware of when my period's about to come, because I tend to get PMS symptoms. When I'm ovulating, my libido tends to go up. And when I'm on the combined hormonal treatments, I find that I'm just level all the way out. Like, even like my libido is a little bit flat, depending on who you ask. I definitely don't get the PMS symptoms. So I don't get the moodiness as my period's coming. I don't get the emotional symptoms with it. I don't normally, again, when I'm not on anything, I kind of get a headache and breast tenderness before my period starts, and I don't tend to get that with the combined stuff. But other than that, I don't have any other significant side effects, and that's why it's probably been my favourite go-to in terms of contraception. So the Mirena coil, I used that on 2 separate occasions, once before I had a baby and one straight after. And I found the process of it going in not particularly painful, but that is individual. And I'd had it in before I'd had a baby, and again, I didn't find it to be horrific. And after I had a baby, it was just a lot easier. When it went in, for the first few weeks, I did have quite severe cramps that almost made me want to take it out, but by the 6-week mark it kind of settled down. The way the hormonal IUD works is it has progesterone in it, it sits within the womb, and then it releases hormones into the lining of the womb, causing the lining of the womb to thin, causing the mucus around the cervix to thicken to reduce the likelihood of sperm going through, and then it also affects how mobile the tubes are to reduce the risks of the eggs or the sperm meeting. So that's typically how it works. You can have it in the pill form, injection form, implant form, and the hormonal IUD. I had the hormonal IUD, and I had it because, again, I wanted to just put something in, not think about it, forget about it. And as you've just seen, I've said that I get PMS type symptoms, and I found when I had it in, other than the fact that it was slightly painful to begin with and that settled, my bleeding got so much lighter. But I just felt super moody all the time. And it wasn't something that I spotted straight away. I'd had it initially for about 8 months. And then after my baby, I had it for 6 months. And the second time round, I was like bleeding every day for 6 months. And my advice as a doctor is always like, give it 6 months and then it will settle. And I got to like the 7th month and it was still like, I was still having bleeding every day. I was like, nah, forget this, it needs to come out. And that may have just been how it had been put in. Maybe it wasn't in the right place, and who knows. But also when I took it out, I was like, my mood is better. I was moody that time as well. And I just made the correlation in my mind that it affects my mood. And like, again, if I look at my normal cycle, in my progesterone high period, I do tend to get moody. So that, again, potentially tracks as to why it's not been great for me. So my pros for the hormonal IUD is that it lasts a really long time. Your periods can essentially stop with them, but that's not very predictable. And actually, it's not that painful to insert. At least it wasn't for me. My major downside was, I guess, the bleeding I had the second time round, but also how much it affected my mood. And there is evidence that it's not unique to me, but there are also different types of hormonal IUD that I must mention. You've got the one with a higher dose progesterone, but you've also got ones with lower dose progesterone. And I don't know if I could tolerate the ones with the lower dose, and maybe that would have worked better for me, but I don't know. So again, that's just something you would have to speak to your own clinician. So like I said I do honourable mentions, and not because I've used them, but because people I know have used them, or colleagues have used them, and they've spoken to me about them, or they've given me their feedback. So one is the copper IUD. So this has got no hormone in it. And actually it's a really great method for women who just want to prevent pregnancy and not have to think about it. It has no hormones in it. So actually the risk profile that you get with the other ones is better. So you're not increasing your risk of clots. It has no real risk of increase of cancers and things like that. So it may well be useful for some people who can't use the other two. I remember being in med school and they said, if you've got heavy periods or painful periods, it's not for you. And from that point of view, I've never tried it because I'm like, nah, I can't be making my pain any worse. When I've spoken to colleagues at work, there's a particular colleague that comes to mind who swears by it. And she's like, I love it. It's just that the first 2 days of my period are hell. And I'm like, doesn't work for me. But if you've got the copper coil in and you find your periods are heavier and more painful, it may well be that. And actually, I think that happened to my cousin. And I said to her, look, it may well be this. Why don't you try something else? And the other thing was the implant. So that sits under the arm. It stays in for 3 years. It has the progesterone as well. I've not tried it because I am a control freak. And this is my one thing about the hormonal IUD. If something goes in me, I kind of want to be able to take it out. Not that you should take out your own coil. I do not advise that at all. Implant, it stays there for 3 years, And my friend had it, a few of my friends have had it actually, and they've liked it enough that they've had it more than once. Like the hormonal IUD, some women, it might just stop their periods. They enjoyed it, never really heard anything bad about it. In practice, however, I do notice that some women are more likely to complain about irregular bleeding with it. This video, I hope, highlights the importance of individual choice. There are some things that work great for others, like I've got so many friends who swear by the Mirena coil, but it doesn't work great for other people. And that's why it needs to be an individual choice where your lifestyle, your needs, your medical background all need to be taken into account before deciding on which one to prescribe. And when a decision has been made, there are so many other varieties out there that just because one doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean the other won't. So it is also worth trying within reason, where safe, in a safe way, which works for you, which doesn't, and going from there. You also need to figure out what it is you want out of these treatments. Is it to prevent period pain, heavy bleeding, irregular bleeding? Is it just to prevent a pregnancy? Or is it just to have way more control over your periods? Because like, whenever I'm not on contraceptives, I genuinely get annoyed when I see my period. I don't get pain anymore, but it's just like, oh, is it today? Oh. You know, and these things are also a very valid reason to take treatment so that you have way more control. I hope that this video has given you information in an easy and digestible way. I hope you've acknowledged that it's my personal experience with the ones that I've tried, all those that my colleagues or friends have tried, but I hope it's also given you a place to start, really, for you to go and do your research. The NHS website is great, but I also implore you to go and see your healthcare provider and decide what works better for you and take into account the pros, the cons, and everything in between. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and if you would like to see more videos aligned to women's health and women's health education, please let me know in the comment section below, because like, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. Like I said, with Nyara Health, we also have an Instagram page which does have information about various conditions, which I will put in the link below. And when we do finally get around to starting our YouTube channel with more direct and evidence-based information, not personal experience like I've shared today, I will share that with you. Also, in the comment section, let me know if you found this video useful, if you've used contraception before and your experience with it. Like, let's have an open conversation about it, so that other people can learn from our experiences. And if there's anything more that you would like me to share or discuss, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.